other people who own a business. What things do you think could be put in place to make young people feel more comfortable and more confident, I guess, moving into the workplace? Who should start? I don't mind. Jamie, would you like to start on that one?
No pressure. I think the main one, if I was an employer trying to get young people in, is making a more relaxed scenario to get them in. Obviously, with everything that's changing, I know a lot of our employers have done virtual job interviews and stuff like that, which, as we know, you're a lot more prepared. You've got a lot more stuff you can stick on another screen and be able to read off your little post-it notes, which I know people have done. But I think a lot of it is the ability for them to learn about the person before learning about what's on their piece of paper, and even stuff like CVs these days. The From this year of lockdown, even if they on an interview you ask, oh, so what did you do during the lockdown? And if somebody turned around and went, oh, I just spent it doing this, you learn a lot more about the personality of the person. Or if they'd done something like Phoebe and she went, oh, during the lockdown I just jumped on a ship and I started working there for in the middle of the pandemic, and the admiration, like, it's more inspiring for people. And it's, I think, as an employer, for someone new coming in, even during the time where virtual is a lot bigger, it's just letting them know or be aware that this isn't a norm, and there's so much more that you can learn and so much more you can do just because you're not there. And I think if I was an employer, I would happily want to employ people, say, in 3 years' time or 4 years' time when they're coming out of a degree, because they've had to overcome so many more learning curves and struggles and stuff that might not have gone their way. But when they come in, you can teach them it, or you can teach them how you want to teach it. Because doing an apprenticeship, I learn a lot more from the workplace than I do than in uni, because I'm learning how people really do it, and or why they do it, or they might say always this is the best option, but I've got to look at a completely different option because it could be something new, and I've got more time to learn about it. So I think employers would just have to realise that this COVID cohort is going to be probably the strongest lot, and the ones that have done so much more reading because they don't want to miss out.
Yeah, and certainly more resilient because they've had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And what about from your perspective, Phoebe? What things do you think employers should be doing to make young people feel more comfortable in the workplace?
Perhaps in the workplace or sort of getting a job?
I think a mixture of the two would be great. I think getting the job is the important part, isn't it? In terms of being confident in the workplace is really important, but actually being comfortable when they're going through that interview process and things like that is equally important. So yeah, both. Give us both, Phoebe.
So I think it's really important when a young person applies for a job, they may have never worked before, they may have never had a CV written before, and this is just done, they might not have support from outside of school or college. So you have to be understanding that this is the first job that they are applying. So I'm not saying lower the standards, but just bear that in mind and just be, understanding, and just know that they don't know everything, that you shouldn't expect them to know everything, and just reassure them that you will teach them everything, how to interact with customers, how to speak on the telephone, how to write an email, all of those basic things that we now know how to do and we have spent the last 12 months doing, we've mastered it. They still don't know, they've just come out of school or college. So I think reassure them that that will all be taught, and I think that will help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just letting them know that you're also a human, isn't it? And actually they understand. I think that's a massive important thing. It's hard when you're on that level with someone where you feel like they understand you, it's hard to feel uncomfortable, isn't it? Because you sort of you feel understood, which is really important.
And they've been surrounded by students the same age, and they might never have interacted professionally with a 30-year-old or however old. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it might be the
absolutely.
first time.
I'll say before I started working where I worked in a store, so I learned all the people skills there. And if you're a whole year out, I remember going up to somebody I didn't know and I was like, excuse me, and they're like, everything all right after the pandemic? And I was like, yeah, can I just grab the thing around the corner? And they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. But you're just not used to it as much as you were before.
Yeah, I think even social situations with people you know have become more even nerve-wracking. It feels weird leaving the house, and you're always quite conscious of getting too close to people and all those sorts of things that we wouldn't have even considered before. So I think that's a really good point. And Alessandro, from your perspective, is there anything that you think you can add in terms of what employers can do to make people feel confident when they're applying for roles?
I suppose I'm gonna hop off what everyone else has said, but it's sort of the idea of understanding that everyone might be coming in at different levels of knowledge and ability, and instead of like, I think it can be sometimes a bit patronising to teach like some people who are quite advanced these like low level things. I think it's about being flexible to an individual and just saying, okay, that individual's slightly behind in like email etiquette, as others said, and then teaching that individual. I know it's more time consuming, but that individualistic approach makes it like more, I would definitely say, more comfortable for me as an individual.
So rather than having like a one-size-fits-all training program, it's actually having personalised training based on that person's training needs, which feels like a sensible route to take anyway.
And
Absolutely.
I would suggest not just doing an online course of how to write an email. I'm sure there is such thing. I think having a person, it would take one day
I agree.
to shadow someone to learn how to do everything, all of these soft skills.
Yeah, I mean, you could, like, if we keep with this, the theme and the example of sending an email etiquette, it would take 30 minutes to talk someone through that, wouldn't it? And actually being able to ask questions rather than, like you say, being on like an online death by PowerPoint type training. Definitely, it is better to have that personalised approach and actually, and finding out. I think just asking the question, where do you think you could do with some training? It seems simple. Maybe we should start a business.
Yeah. I think the other one is being able to talk to higher level people, because I know from experience, I've been in meetings when I was just started and I just didn't know what to do, and I sat in the meeting room really quiet, just writing. The notes made no sense when I walked out, but I made it look like I was busy. But it's that kind of stuff that during the lockdown I've been able to jump on calls and just mute myself and sit, and they can't see me writing notes or doing other work, but it's making the employers realise that this is something that's new and it's not something that you learn at school. You don't, when you talk to a teacher, it's just talking to a teacher, and then you don't really talk to your head of year or head teacher unless you're in trouble. So that's a different scenario than it is in a workplace. And now we got our like senior management and senior people on a lot more of our calls or jumping in and doing talks, which wouldn't have happened during a normal day because they would have to travel in. So I think that as well is learning how to speak to either higher or lower people, because we don't talk about hierarchy in the workplace. So
I think that's really important, and it's an interesting point you make, because actually when you're a student, you don't even call your teachers by their first name, and then you step into the workplace and it's a similar sort of format, isn't it, when you've got someone who's sort of senior leadership and you're coming in at a junior level, but you're not going to call them Mr. Smith or whatever. It's a whole different format. So learning about that is really an interesting one as well. And I think, even just to set expectations for young people when they're coming into the workplace, I think is really important. So great point. Thank you, Jamie. So final question then, and actually this is just because I'm slightly interested in it. You know, when you are looking at what benefits employers can offer, and they say things like sick pay or holiday pay, and those things that actually as young people, I'm going to say we because I'm still quite young, we feel are important, right? But they're important, but they're also quite basic. Because, you know, we expect that we're going to get paid if we're not feeling very well and those sorts of things. I wonder what sort of benefits and things, if you saw it on an employer's offering, would actually be really interesting to you and you go, oh my God, that's really cool. Because employers do things now like you can have a day off to work for charity, or, I don't know, they'll pay for your Netflix subscription, like some extra sort of things like that. Is there anything that you would suggest would be really attractive to young people when they're applying for different things?
I would suggest flexible working hours. I love the fact I can, if I'm up at 5 o'clock, I can start work at 6 and be done and have the afternoon off. I love that. I love the flexibility and just be able to work around doctor's appointments, whatever. I can just arrange my day however it suits me, but still get the work done. I think that's a really good benefit that employers could offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if they've got a good structure in place, it shouldn't be too hard to offer or to manage either.
At the end of the day, as long as you get your job done, I think it shouldn't matter at all.
I completely agree. If you've got a to-do list, if that to-do list is done, does it matter if you sit at a desk and stare at your emails for an hour? I don't feel like it does. Anyone got anything else they feel like would be a really attractive benefit?
I wouldn't say Netflix because I feel that I'll do a lot less work knowing that I have a free Netflix account to watch. No, I think for my workplace when I went there, it was the facilities, and I think selling the facilities and the way the culture of the job. That's why I went for it a lot more, because in civil engineering there's so many major companies or minor companies doing so much that it's really hard to pick one. And when you go into one, you're very drawn to that one until you move to the next one, and then you're very drawn into that. So I think if I was trying to sell it, the sick pay and all that, I didn't even know what taxes was until my first paycheck, and was like, why are they taking money? And then my manager sat with me and was like, this is taxes. And I was like, what? But I think it's more of, I think the people side of it and the culture of the ones, because I see a lot of the advertisements now, and they say about like they hire groups with pride, and there's groups with, and there's different cultures, and there's different teams you can join, and that kind of sells it to people. Because in my company they got like 12 or 13 different like little groups you can join, volunteering, or you can help run it, and those kind of things would sell it to me if I was a new employee, because you know that the company cares about it and the company's ethos is about that. Or Spotify, because I know that's quite expensive every year. That'll probably be my only other one, because like podcasts and stuff like that you can listen to, and our work they put like podcasts out every month, and I don't know where I've never listened to one because it's always an like junk email draft one. But those kind of things, I think it'd help sell it to me. But I think learning a lot more about the company before going for the job, because I'm sure Phoebe, when they said, do you want to work on a ship, you probably Googled the ship first rather than just going, yeah, I'm going to work on a ship and it's a little dinghy, and you're like, this wasn't part of the job. But I think for someone like yourself, I think you fell in love with the idea of the job and what you can get out of it in the future rather than moving to London. But yeah.
Cool. That was loads, Jamie. So we're talking job prospects, how much information they actually give out about the company. Potentially a Spotify account could be quite good.
No. Spotify, definite, please. I need a Spotify.
And sort of enriching groups and things and communities and things that you can get involved in as well within the workplace. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Alessandro, is there anything that you feel like if you saw it on a list of benefits would be attractive to you? Jamie's taken all of them, so probably not.
Sorry.
No, I would just hop off the back of career prospects, like the ability to progress, sort of maybe presenting them would be a good way, instead of having to like, and also like that background of the company. Sometimes people want to work alongside their ethics and morals, which is always nice because you're always working for something you enjoy and you feel good about. So I think that's definitely something personal that would be good, but I think a lot of the freebies are good as well.
Absolutely. So I think then if we're going to give our sort of key pieces of advice to employers, actually just showing what they do is really important. Like if you're going to go on their careers webpage, or whatever it might be, pick up their leaflet, then actually we want to be able to see what do they care about, what extra things are they doing, do they offer flexible working. So it's more about how they operate as a company, really, isn't it? Because I think the generation COVID, if you like, is the way that it's coming through is that, one, we really care about things, like we care about climate change, and we want the company we work for to align with those values. So I think that's really important to know, the sort of the things that they care about. And also, like you mentioned, Phoebe, with flexible working, actually it's more about the life we live. The job that we do is really important and we really want to enjoy our work, but actually if we want to go and have a coffee in the afternoon and then come back and do some work later in the evening, we want that to be an option for us, because actually what we want to do is build a really great life as well as having that work-life balance. Do you know what I mean? So I think we've touched on some really interesting points there. So thank you, guys. Good points, well put. Thank you for you guys for giving up your time and answering my questions today. So from myself, Phoebe, Alessandro, Jamie, and Jamie's very comfy chair, thank you very much. And we will see you again. Thank you.